So excited to have you guys here. This show is called Better Views. We just try to give different viewpoints and kind of show people a different view of people's journeys. And today we could not be more excited to have you guys. I'll do my best to kind of introduce you, but we have a current Rizen fighter, former UFC fighter, overall badass, Des Moines legend, Johnny Case in the building.
Thanks for having me, man. That's
So exciting. Thank you so much for being here.
my pleasure. That's a hell of an intro. I appreciate the love, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the fact that we have the owner of the prominent, I think, well, let's say, only one that matters. Can we say that?
We can say the biggest and the best.
That's what thank you
Midwest
so
Cage
much.
Championship.
Midwest Cage Championship owner, superhero by day, also former fighter. I'm going to guess kind of a badass, Rick Tasler's in the building. Thank you so much.
Good to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to have you guys. I'm not going to shorten that because you deserve it. So I guess if we can start with, I would just like to know, if I could ask you this, what is your favorite knockout of all time?
Oh, man.
Yours, and then one that you saw.
My favorite knockout of all time, I would say, I fought in Ames once at Hilton Coliseum. And I fought a black belt in jiu-jitsu, a really good fighter, good friend now, his name's Roland Larson. But I remember that was the first time I ever knocked anybody out where the punch was like 2 or 3 inches. It was literally like I just turned over a right hand and it goes, and he fell. And I was like, oh, that was weird. It was like when Ali knocked out Frazier and they were calling the Phantom Punch.
Yeah.
Short. It was kind of like that. It was just like real short, real
That's
snappy.
amazing.
Boom. I'm like, oh. That was the first time I was like, wow, it's kind of a trick when you knock people out.
It's a lot funner knocking
Yeah.
people out than wrestling all the time.
Yeah, or thinking you have to bash their head in when it's not quite like that. It's just timing and just turn it over, stick them in the face. Then it kind of, there's a finesse to a real knockout, not just a barbarian swinging big punches, That would say, that would probably be my most memorable knockout in my career. But my favorite KO ever of all time would probably be Dan Henderson versus Michael Bisping. He dropped the H-bomb.
Yeah.
Boom. Yeah, that was cold, man. That was still my favorite.
And can we speak to what you just said? Can you kind of break down a little bit of the dynamics of a punch? Since you kind of said that, I feel like a lot of people don't know how a punch actually works.
Oh yeah, so there's different kinds of punches. I mean, straight angle punches, hook punches, uppercut punches, but all basic principle is, think about if you're shooting a rifle, right? Down that center line is your barrel, so quote unquote, right? And at that barrel is the point of access where all strikes connect, like we're firing down the range, right? Just set up with a little bit different body positioning and a little bit different way to generate the power. And straight punches, you're basically just reaching out, there's a famous picture by. Damn it, I forget, but it shows the human body in every form of motion and every form of movement. Damn it, I can't believe I'm forgetting this one.
Well, if we find it later, we'll put it in the description.
But basically, when you generate the power for the punch, it's actually just your body is pushing off the ground, generating power.
Yes, sir.
You use that to recoil through your body as you twist and unwind and transfer the weight to the other foot. And the punch should hit the target as soon as your weight is fully generated from the back foot pushing into the front foot or the front foot pushing into the back foot. And that creates a kinetic chain of energy that you can transfer through the target.
Yeah, hearing kinetic energy tied into a punch is just super cool, to be honest.
Well, that's
Full body mechanics.
That's the difference between a guy being strong and just hitting you, wailing on you with arm punches, or a guy that's going to hit you with a planet. You know what I mean? And that's the difference between a knockout.
Hit you with a planet.
Yeah, it's like
Thanos.
A good striker is like turning your bone structure into a statue. So you're completely fixed. So imagine if you're like walking, not paying attention, and you fucking turn and bump a statue on your face. You're like, what the? Well, the reason why that's so devastating is because that statue is immovable. And like a good striker, when you turn everything over correctly, your bone structure is locked out. Like you're mechanically locked out and structurally sound with energy being transferred through your body. You know what I mean? So when you understand how to correctly throw a punch and how to sit down and generate the force with punching, yeah, it's next level. And anybody who just doesn't know how to do that is really delusional if they think they can throw a good punch.
For sure, which is a lot of regular guys. But I'm actually glad that we started there because it really shows people that you clearly have an eye for the technique of the game and clearly have a mind for the fighting, and that's pretty exciting. and I want to make sure we highlight that, but I also want to talk about how you guys kind of came together and kind of. It sounds like you had some history maybe before MCC.
Johnny is my nephew. I'm Johnny's uncle.
Oh,
so,
there you go. Like,
yeah, I got Johnny into fighting when he was 17 years old, and yeah, Johnny was just always my favorite nephew and stuff growing up and stuff. My sister's boy and stuff. And, yeah, that's not a hidden fact, anything like that. And I kind of took him under my wing when he was going down a wrong path in high school.
Yes, sir.
And I said, "This is where you're going to be," and he was scared to death the first day we kind of brought him in the gym and stuff like that. Like he said, he saw the fights and stuff, and I did not think he was going to like it. And man, when he got in there, he soaked it up like a sponge, and he got better than all of us within the first 2 years. He was already better than every single one of us.
That's incredible.
And
that's incredible.
Just excelled in the sport.
So when you say, wrong path, was there some fighting going on? Was there something that led you to think he would be a fighter, or?
Yeah, he loved to fight. His wrestling was very solid. He had a very solid base. We were all good wrestlers growing up and stuff in our whole family and everything like that. And, he just didn't have the discipline, and I did not either as a kid. My wrestling could have been so much better than it was. I did not want to be in that 100-degree wrestling room and stuff all the time, so I tried to instill it in him, the regrets that I had.
Yes, sir.
And it worked.
Gotcha. So what did that initial kind of conversation look like, or what did you really say, like, you're going to do this?
Yeah, I didn't give him an option.
Was there some pushback, or
when we brought him into the Ogden wrestling room the first time, I kind of didn't give him an option. It was kind of tough love at the beginning that this is what he needed to do. But like I said, once he got there, you never had to ask him to do it again. He was in love pretty quickly with the art of the sport.
Yeah, I took my beatings I didn't really particularly like that part. Right? I went in there, I'm like, fuck, this is hard. And it was kind of hard on my ego as well, because I like to fight. I like to, I raced motocross at the time, and I was kind of like a wild kid, I guess you could say. I liked thrills. I liked doing all that shit that scared me. But to be honest, I thought I'd be a lot better at fighting before, you know what I mean? And I went in there, I realized I didn't know shit about fighting. So, but because I didn't know shit about fighting, I instantly knew that that's something I wanted to be good at.
And those people are so much easier to train. People that come in with only slight flaws and not major flaws, just like shooting, just like any sport. You have to train the bad out of them. He did not have any of that bad to train out of him, so it was easy to train him. And like I said, we got him up to our level very quickly, and then pawned him right on to Joe Brammer, one of the best fighters around here, our level. He got better than everybody there, went straight to California, got better than everybody there, had to go down to Henderson, and with Benson and Ryan Bader and all the guys down there.
Wow, that's amazing.
California,
so you
and they all
with
love
him?
him. Yeah, they're all his
Bader?
best friends that he still talks to.
Yeah, Bader was a good friend of mine. But yeah, I trained up. So I left Alliance MMA in San Diego. It was a who's who of the best guys in the UFC at the time, and a couple of us like Michael Chandler, Jeremy Stevens, Miles Jury.
You can't just throw names out there like that. That's pretty amazing.
we left San Diego. We went to Arizona to Power MMA, which was like CB Dollaway, Ryan Bader, Aaron Simpson. Those guys, that crew, all wrestling, all just stud wrestlers. You know what I mean? And I trained there. I had one fight in the UFC with them. No, I had 2 fights in the UFC with them. Yeah, I had 2 fights in the UFC with that gym. And then that kind of dissolved, that gym. It was all like heavyweight guys, and they kind of did their own thing. And then I ended up going to the MMA lab in Phoenix with John Crouch and Benson Henderson,
yes, sir.
And Sugar Sean O'Malley, and all the good guys there. So
that's pretty incredible. That's pretty incredible. So just so kind of get an understanding, Iowa roots, right? I heard you mention Ogden. So what school were we talking about? Where was the wrestling going on?
We were both born and raised in Jefferson.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
but at the time I was a police officer in Boone, and I knew I was helping Coach Riddle coach the Pee Wee wrestling in Ogden. So I had to coach the wrestling and like 4 o'clock, and then we got to change it to the MMA gym after that, and we all got to come in for free and train together.
Wow.
So
Wow.
and I mean we would have 50 guys in that room some nights, that everybody that wanted to learn, and
Humble beginnings.
yes, very humble beginnings.
Well, at least some of my favorite fighters, do Bronx, and certain people come from incredibly humble beginnings. So I'm a firm believer in that. And just so I can acknowledge people seeing me run around here and turn on the lights, I clearly need to learn some work ethic and discipline to make sure I'm ready to go. I was just so excited, to be here with you guys. So
Ambiance is everything.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Shorty's very excited too.
So can we get if don't mind me asking, but can we get an idea of the age? Like, so when he was 17 and you're his uncle, like how old were you kind of around that time?
I'm 47 now and he's 33, so that would put me 14 years older than Johnny.
Gotcha.
So I didn't start fighting until I was 28 and
Oh, wow.
training. I had a wrestling background, and then I got into judo right after that. So I had a strong grappling background, but I never heard of jiu-jitsu. And my first jiu-jitsu instructor was Rudy Bork, who was a purple belt under Pat Miletich for the Miletich system.
Wow.
And he came into the gym when I was in Boone just working out as a police officer, and he said, he saw me working out with some throws and stuff, and he introduced himself, and he said, have you ever done jiu-jitsu? And I said, no, but, I can handle myself on the ground and everything.
Yes, sir.
And that kid knotted me up like I was absolutely nothing. He fought at 155 pounds, and back then I was solid. I was fighting at 45 at that time, but I was big. I was 161 pounds and probably single-digit body fat and
Wow.
really good shape. And that kid knotted me up like I had no idea how to wrestle and how to throw and everything like that. And I fell in love with jiu-jitsu because I'd never been triangled so many times and armbarred and had no idea what I was doing in a real fight. And we started moving up from there and getting real instructors in and training with everybody, cross-training with everybody we could, and just got better.
Very cool. So this happens. You get Johnny on a better path. He's clearly incredibly talented. So where does it go to leading you guys to, being involved in your own promotion? So
I already had my promotion at that time. I bought in. I had my first fight in 2006. I sold like $6,000 worth of tickets for my first fight, and the promoter that owned it at the time, who became one of my best friends, offered me to buy in at that time. So I bought in 10% at that time after my
Gotcha.
first fight.
awesome. That's
Within 6 months, I
incredibly
owned.
astute.
Yeah, within 6 months, I owned 25% of the company, and within 2 years, I owned 50% of the company, and then in 2010, I bought the company myself.
I mean, if there's not a message in just working and betting on yourself and
Yeah.
and believing in yourself, that's very, very
Yeah,
cool.
in 4 years, I went from 10% ownership to 100% ownership, and I still own 100% of the company today. Johnny and I own 50-50 of the MCC, and this is our 5th year since him and I have taken over before. We had a group that Ryan Haas put together, kind of a dream team of all sides that he saw coming together. We all didn't have the same work ethic
Yes, sir.
that we did, so I was doing most of the work anyway. So that kind of dissolved, and then Johnny and I hit each other up, and I said, Johnny, I think it's time that we bring MCC back. And we met with the commission, and we brought it back, and Johnny and I have been running it 50-50 ever since.
Wow. So Johnny, do you ever have trouble balancing being a current active title contender with trying to run a promotion, or?
No, man. I got Rick's the best of the best. Rick, I'd be so lost if it wasn't for him. You know what I mean? He does, to say that I'm 50-50, that doesn't necessarily mean I do 50% of the work. Rick is a freaking workhorse, and he's a full-time police officer, a police chief at that. He's got other officers that are underneath him. So,
Yes, sir.
So no, it's been pretty easy, to say the least, having Rick by my side. He's really done a lot for me, and I'm grateful to have him, showing me how to run the business the right way.
So is he involved in any of your fight corners or fight camps, or is that kind of separate?
When I was training actively, I definitely was. But now, Johnny's so much better than me. There's nothing I can teach him except mental. Johnny and I, we have all of those talks before and after the fights, the mental stuff. I'm still on peak to get him mentally set and ready to go, because when he's gone and stuff, he misses his kids so much. He misses his family so much, because he's such a great dad and a family guy now. I have to explain that to them, that they will understand when you're world champion and stuff like that. And we have those conversations every now and then, but that's really the only role I play in his fight stuff now.
Just to kind of piggyback off that, I've actually raised my daughter alone. Her mother was never in the picture, and like I said, she's a rock star. She just graduated with honors. She was going to DMAC since 10th grade.
awesome.
Only
That's
student in her district to do that. She works 2 jobs.
Very cool.
So yeah, I think man has no higher calling than kind of being a father, and I've always centered myself in that. So can you talk to how that has maybe, because like he said, it's tough to be away, but I'm also guessing you find some strength and some motivation in being grounded as a father and knowing how they look at you as a superhero, because they always look at us as superheroes.
Yeah, man, those are the toughest years I've ever had. That was the toughest thing with anything dealing with fighting, is just being away from my kids. You know what I mean? When my oldest son was born, I remember it was a moment. I think I had just won the Midwest Cage. I just won the
title,
my first regional professional title, and I had my son. And there was a moment where I was like, damn, I gotta get a real job. I gotta take care of my kid. And then there was another part of my mind that was like, fuck that, man. This is the best way you can take care of your kid. You know what I mean? This is the best opportunity you've ever had in your life. And, it wasn't a day of it felt like work. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
So that's when I knew I was all in, and the years went on, and, he was 2-3 maybe, and I just want to fight in the RFA, and I was becoming a real prospect, if I'm with the right team, train with the right guys, a moment's notice, they need a last minute guy, I'm there and I'm ready to go. So then I ended up moving to San Diego, and within a year I was signed to the UFC, and
wow,
made more money in that first night than I never made in my entire life. Went out there and showed out and got a performance of the night, UFC fight night, in Japan, Tokyo.
That's pretty incredible.
It was, so from that moment on, it was like, yep, it was kind of like a confirmation, this is it. But when I was training, when I was gone, all I could think about was my kids, missing my kids, all the little things, waking up with them, going to school, picking them up from school.
Wrestling tournaments.
And, and I'd win a fight and I'd come home for a month or two and it'd be awesome. You know what I mean? But, I'd be home a week or two and I'd already be thinking about the next fight, So when I was there, I was constantly being pulled over here with my kids, when I'm here with my kids and should be enjoying life, I'm just thinking about the next fight. And it was just, it was constantly just that battle of, what am I doing? What if my kids just wake up and say, Dad, I just wanted you here. I don't care if you're a world champion, and, once I got to, once I kind of was able, talking with Rick, talking with people, and, once I was able finally to convince myself that, yeah, this is the best opportunity, not only financially, but like the man I'm becoming, the person the examples I'm setting.
Yes, sir.
Like this is more valuable than coming home and working a factory job that I fucking hate and being miserable and fucking self-soothing with alcohol or whatever else,
Yes, sir.
And like, what kind of man am I going to be for them, and so, but I did move back to Iowa 3 summers ago, and to say that's like, that has given me so much peace, and I can't really describe it to anybody other than this, like, just a big weight off my shoulders, and now I'm dealing with the training aspect.
Yes, sir.
Like, the training here is not what it takes to be, fighting on the world level, but I'm here and I'm invested in that, and I have my kids now, I don't have to take a 5-hour plane ride and then, I can just go see my kids whenever I want, go watch their football games, go watch the wrestling tournaments,
Hey.
go pick them up, just hang out. Like,
Some would say that's success in itself.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely.
So I heard you just mention the training and maybe not having world-class facilities and operations. TJ also mentioned that in an extremely respectful kind of.
Correct.
So you guys, what are your thoughts on that? What do you think? Is there things that can be done? Is it, if you really want to be world-class, you do have to go somewhere else? What is kind of...
You do to put it together. Johnny can explain a lot better than I do, because I'm just the outside looking in, because I've never been that level and never would be that level, because I had a career before MMA
Yes,
got
sir.
big. But the jiu-jitsu is here in Des Moines. The jiu-jitsu level is here for that level. The striking and the amount of men it needs to get to that level. You know, you need a group of guys. You can't have one guy to get to that level, and it's just not here. You know, we have UFC fighters everywhere. Elite Edge, you know, it's got lots of MMA guys with Josh Neer, with Joe Brammer, with guys like that. But they're getting older and they're not on the mats anymore and stuff like that to get you there. To get to Johnny's level and to stay at Johnny's level, you have to have those guys on the mats every single day, 8 to 10 of them pushing you every single day because they want to be the best in the world and you have to be the best in the world. And we don't have those group here. We have the group of some of the best amateur fighters in the world come right here in the Midwest, but we don't have the level of gyms with the level of fighters in that group to get you to that level. Johnny got to that level under Elite Edge with Joe, but then he got better than everybody there, and it was either move him out or he would not have got any higher level than he was.
Yeah, but even back then, we were cross training. I was cross training all the time. You know, I was going downtown with Des Moines Jiu-Jitsu Academy with like TJ O'Brien and Kevin Burns, and then I was going. You know, Brammer did a really good job back then of just organizing everything, and you know, and that is the biggest thing for me right now in Iowa that I've noticed is the biggest thing that's holding everybody back is organization and unity. Because you can, you know, like there's good guys, there's a decent guy here, there's a decent guy there, and it's like, you can have the training partners to be successful here. You don't need world-class training partners. You need consistent, dedicated, hardworking training partners, and you need a coach, an overseer who's able to organize, who can see the big picture. Well, just like the military, you know, the military has a general. You know, that guy's not out there on the lines every day. He's the guy that's like seeing the big picture play out. You know, and it's like to be successful in MMA, you need that. You need your foot soldier, your training partners. You need good training partners that are going to show up for you and that will give you their all and that want you to win as much as you want to win. Then you need, you know, somebody to take the clutter out of it, to take the, you know, the aimlessly wandering around of like, oh, am I going here to train here with this? Is this guy going to show up? And like, you know, and to really be successful at high level, you need that, and that's just what we don't. That's what I don't have here. Like, you know, I can kind of make it work with, you know, inviting guys here and training here, but it's really hard. It's really hard to, you know, it's really hard to trust guys to show up, to be there for you, for one, and two, it's like even then, you're kind of aimlessly hoping you're doing the best.
Here, it's just we're on our own. The other organizations and stuff like that, we work with several organizations, but the other organizations, they just want to be by themselves. They don't want to work. They have no desire to build the athletes like Johnny and I do. They want to take a paycheck home, and that's their only goal.
So I was going to ask that if there was if the business side of MMA, the sport,
cutthroat,
if that has changed over the years and maybe made it more or less difficult. You know, because you do have places like the PI and things like that now, which probably is an amazing thing if you're a young, you know, fighter who might not have a Rick in their life or something and can find their way to one of these institutes or gyms. But I was curious about, because it's got to be, I mean, for lack of a better word, expensive to be a fighter and to really get to the top level because you need the best of the best. Like you said, you really probably need a boxing coach and a grappling coach, and a jiu-jitsu coach, and all these things.
And a nutritionist, and a massage therapist.
Yeah.
And, you know,
physical therapist.
Yeah.
And those things are probably more readily available, bigger cities, where they can be a farm almost, and just collect a check to where you guys seem to care. And so that's got to be a tough place to be. To be here in Iowa and want to grow it, but feel...
And two, it's Iowa's very old school, in that it's like, this team versus that team, and it's like, dude, it should be Des Moines versus everybody. You know, it should be like a unity, a community of like, you know, hey, I want to help your fighters.
Des Moines versus everybody. I love it.
You know, and then it's not. It's very like old school where it's like, well, I'm gonna be the best gym in Des Moines, and it's like none of us are that with that mentality. You know, it's like we're fighting over scraps when we should be building wealth. Then there's more wealth in it. You know, and that's the thing. It's a delicate side too, because owning a gym, it's like you got to make money if you own any business, right? You have to make money, but it's really hard to build fighters and to build the sport if that's your main focus. You know?
Yeah, and I'm actually from New York. I've been here like 13 years. I kind of love Des Moines, But I've noticed that even in other markets, Des Moines it's probably big enough to sustain, a gym, a media house, a recording studio. But it seems like there hasn't really been that much unity on a local level in other businesses, whether it's music, things like that. And when I first got here, there was no radio stations, no places to do media runs. Even now, I'd like to be hopefully a media outlet for MCC and any fighting that's here, But I don't think there's many people that are building it on the ground level under you guys, so that it feels bigger. I think it should feel bigger. This is a big deal.
Sure.
Des Moines should feel like this is a big deal. And I don't feel like there's enough people behind it that are trying to do the smaller jobs. And so you can't, like, if you have a big event, where do you go for media? I don't know. I'm sure there's got to be a radio station or something.
Scott
maybe.
Casper is about the only one that reaches out
And
and
when you
runs that
can
USA
name
radio.
it, that's just not ideal.
And that's the
not
thing.
ideal.
Like, Rick and I are pretty on the same level about that. Rick is ace at what he does as far as like making money, setting fights that are great fights, and not just pimping out the fighters for ticket sales. Like, he does a great job at like his business with just the show alone. No sponsors, no, and it's like, as far as like marketing the show and putting money into the show, well, it's like you kind of got to have a product that can be promoted to, up to the UFC level and up, and it's been a lot of focus on building that aspect of the show, is making sure the talent is there, most importantly, before we start, fancying the show up and, buying smoke, all the smoke and mirrors, right? All the smoke and mirrors. And it's like, I used to think like, well, as a fighter, it's like guys want to fight for that smoke and mirrors show. It's like, yeah, but how many King of the Cage fights have you been to? And it's like, you got 13 UFC veterans, none of them fighting each other. They're all fighting these fucking turd guys, local guys. And it's like, the show looks great. The fights suck. And it's like, so I think Rick has done an awesome job at making the fights awesome and building the fighters the right way. Not having mismatched guys that are just going out there, and then now one of these guys, he's got a loss, and now it's like you can only use half of the guys per fight night. It's like, what's the point? Why not bring in guys for like? Why not make like all of our guys win? No matter what gym, no matter what promotion, anybody here, it's like we can bring guys in. It's not a big deal, but I think it's a lot of just old school thinking as far as like, well, my guy across town, you got a pretty good guy across town, like let's fight. It's like, why? And then only one of you, it's like one of you are going to take a loss. It's and one loss in a professional MMA career could make or break a decade of fighting back,
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's kind of what I think you see happen here is guys want to be in whatever field they're in. They want to be known as the best here. When if we all made each other feel like a big deal, then the people would believe we're all a big deal, and therefore the entire sport would grow as a big deal just here in Des Moines.
Yes.
So all the MCC events I've been to were an amazing time. So they were a ton of fun. I love going to them. I remember, I don't know, you might actually remember, it was the year that Luis Saldana kicked dude off the fence.
Oh, yeah.
It might have been like 2014 or something.
Yep.
I was at that event. Whoa, how amazing was that? We had a table for that.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so much fun. Well, let's talk about some maybe a little more upbeat things. Let me ask you this: has there ever been like what's your favorite fight moment? That's happened under your promotion. Like, was it somebody winning a belt? Was it a big knockout? Or just what stands out? What are some fight moments that stand out to you in your history?
Man, there is so many in 17 years watching coming up, but I can tell you that the things that I hold dear is watching my family fight. I mean, back when I was fighting, it was me and my twin brother, all my nephews, him, his brother, and now we're on the third and fourth generation of my fighters from my family.
That's incredible.
Working up in my promotion and stuff like that. We win and lose both, all of us of the family members, all the nephews, everything like that, my twin brother and stuff, we've all won, lost, everything in the promotion, and just watching us build. But there's just so many cool things coming up, watching Tony Sims, he's out in Colorado now, one of Johnny and I's good friends who was going to Iowa State University, watching him build up, get his first knockout, moved him up to some bigger shows in Minnesota, stuff like that, making him to the UFC. I mean, just Johnny getting to the UFC. There's so many guys that we've watched build. Michael McBride and stuff that was in our little promotion. We've moved up to MCC and then moved up to the big show. And there's no other promotion in the state of Iowa or maybe even the Midwest that can say that. We've got some shitty promotions that we really had in Iowa that we've got run out of the promotions. There's so many snakes in this area that does it. And we just had one new promotion start again. And I share all my information with every promotion because I'm so busy. I do my 25 schedule is already set. I've got every show set for 2025 already today because I'm so organized and I do that. So I send it to every promotion and everybody's great. A new promotion started here in Iowa, and I sent him, when he first started, I sent him my schedule, and he pretty much said, I don't care what your schedule is. I'm going to book shows which is best for me, and I don't give a shit about you. Me being the senior promotion in Iowa and working with every promotion, and he has still had, the balls to reach out to me to help him on his shows. And, I respect him, everything like that. I love the guy. And I won't bring up any names. That's disrespectful and stuff. Could be anybody in the state of Iowa I'm talking about. There's a lot of us promotions. But I only work with the good guys. When the bad guys reach out, no desire to share my 17 years of experience with you. You will, as soon as your sponsors quit giving money for the shitty shows you're throwing, you're going to be under just like the rest of them. And I'm going to still be here until I go because I self-fund everything. I don't need sponsors. I don't need anything. I busted my ass to get here. And
that's incredible.
You'll fail like the rest of them did, and Johnny and I will still be going strong.
That's a pretty powerful statement. Yeah. So saying you funded it all is kind of a pretty powerful statement. That had to be a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
A lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Oh, man. That was back in the wild, wild west of fighting when we'd show up and it'd be like, you versus you, and you guys are kind of about the same weight. No blood work. It was just kind of like, man, that was back in the dinosaur ages of the MMA.
Yes, it was.
Iowa wasn't even sanctioned.
Wasn't even commissioned. Only pro fights were. Amateurs weren't.
2011?
10.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you were back in the way before that era, even. You know.
The first 4 years between Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin, where my partner and I were throwing shows, there'd be some. We'd throw 30 plus shows in the 52 weeks. So we were very, very busy and got to see a lot of talent come up through the ranks.
Like a traveling circus.
Yes.
No, that's an incredible story. I do think people would kind of want to know your thoughts on current MMA. So if you just want to, no, I don't need an order, but people always want to know. They'll get an idea of your thoughts on MMA by knowing who your favorite fighters are to watch. So not necessarily of all time. I assume you guys are fans of the sport. I know you're incredibly busy, so probably don't get to see every. I haven't missed a fight in years. I mean, I watch Bellator, PFL. I try to watch everything. It's actually been there when I needed it. It's really helped me out.
Yes.
Love the sport. So yeah, can you just, without any order, can you say maybe your 3 current favorite fighters to watch? Any promotion really, but
Current fighters?
yeah. And to watch, maybe not the best, maybe not even your favorite, but just because there's a guy or two that maybe sometimes I just didn't want to buy in, but I kept love watching him fight, and then Connor probably had that effect for a lot of people.
Sure.
So just like, who do you like to watch the fight?
Man, any of my friends, teammates, really at the MMA lab, Sugar's an entertainer. Sean O'Malley, he's always a fun guy to watch. I'm always rooting for Sean. I even like Seika Ozawa. She's the #1 atom weight female fighter in the world. She fights for Rizen over in Japan with me. She's a stud. I like most
#1 in the world.
#1 in the world, and she can strike. She can submit. She's a badass. And honestly, women's MMA at the high level is fucking raw. I think dude, it's like 2 cats in a bag going at it. Women, just because their body moves differently, they're not as strong in the chest. So
Yes, sir.
they're getting in way more entanglements and way more freaking scrappy positions. So, I like that. I like lighter female weight fighting. And my third, I don't know, John Jones, I guess. That's just such a generic answer, but.
So are you excited for it? Do you even think he's gonna fight in November?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's become like the WWE with the UFC. It's always like, oh, Connor's coming back. It's like, man, it's like, oh, John's coming back. It's like, well, when they're in the cage and they're getting ready to go, then it's on. Then I believe it. I believe the hype. I don't really even give a shit about the fight politics. Oh, do you think this? You think that? I'm like, I know what it's like being a knuckleheaded fighter, just one guy. It's like I don't try to,
Yes, sir.
put myself in other guys, especially guys like John Jones and Connor.
Yeah.
So,
No, for sure. And you do hear that a lot. Even as a stout defender of the sport, I probably do defend the UFC as well, but that's because I know the fighters are still going in there to fight. Yeah. So that's what separates it from, because there's politics in football and every other sport, but they're still going in there to fight. So, but I do think the UFC probably isn't doing itself any favors currently. There does seem to be a groundswell of potential, unhappiness with the UFC,
Yeah.
but I think fans still do know that fighters get in there to fight. Right. And there's nothing like, at least for me, watching two guys get in there and then just show so much love and respect to each other afterwards, which is 98% of the time. And I just love that so much. But yeah, the UFC definitely is in an interesting place, I think.
yeah, dude, the UFC, they just kind of operate on their own terms, their own, you know what I mean? It's like if they can use you, they will. If they can't, they won't, and then it's pretty cutthroat for the guy, for the blue collar guys that, has families to feed, but it's real good if you're, a personality. You got,
Sean O'Malley.
O'Malley or Connor.
But even a guy like that, he earned it.
Or
he
yeah,
earned his way.
Yeah, for sure.
Even Connor's, I definitely am not a Connor fan at all, but he earned his way until he got to where he was, but he still earned his way there.
Yeah.
Like he was a plumber.
For sure.
Kind of was like, I don't want to keep doing this. I'm going to.
But see, this is what I'm saying. The UFC is such a powerhouse marketing, right? It's
a monopoly
it's
almost.
Like, it's such a powerhouse. They could make a star out of anybody. You know what I mean? Like the WWF, the WWE. It's like every one of those wrestlers were stars. You know what I mean? Each one of them had their own persona, had their own swag, and it's like the UFC isn't interested in that. The UFC is interested in like latching on to the people that are that. You know what I mean? And then
have that potential.
And have that potential. And and you see it in like there's a, what the hell is it? It's like a fucking, it's like intern. Like the UFC literally does like an intern. Like they did it with Mackenzie Dern. They did it with like Sage Northcutt. They did it,
Sage.
A guy. Yeah, they did it where like
CM Punk,
the UFC
failed,
can be like, oh yeah, CM, exactly. Where they're like, oh, we see so much potential to be a superstar, not necessarily be the best fighter, right? It's like you can fight. If you can fight, like, top tier fighter, it's like, that's good enough. We'll make you into a super. It's like they can really enhance that. You know what I mean? And like I said, you got to be a special talent anyway, but that's the kind of guys that with the UFC, they're really more attracted to. But it's like you have so many guys like in Brazil, like Russia, Dagestan that you've never heard of that are just
that would
on
kill
any given night, they
everybody
could kill in the whole entire roster.
Yep.
And it's like, you don't even know their fucking name. They're fighting on the prelim. So.
Yeah. PFL's making somewhat of a push. I just read a news story and I can't remember his name right now, but the owner of the PFL said that they're spending more on the next Ngannou fight event than Dana spent at the Spear. And, he was talking about how that was such a big deal.
Yeah.
So PFL is definitely giving it a run.
From a financial
for sure.
standpoint, the PFL is by far the best promotion to fight for. It's the president, Ray Sefo, he was a legend in Japan, K1 world champion, and like he gets it. So, he, as for a fighter, financially speaking, the PFL is the top paying right now.
And this is a guy that Johnny talks to and friends with.
Yeah, he's my coach at
has all the connections with
in Vegas. And I actually fought on the very first season of the PFL. I was a dark horse in the tournament because Foster, what the hell was his name? Brian Foster. He was the number 8 seed, and he ended up getting a brain aneurysm and couldn't fight.
Oh, wow.
So I was the dark horse number 8 the very first year of the PFL. And I had a draw because the guy I was supposed to fight for the guy I was supposed to fight, he ended up being the champion. And I ended up getting a draw, and I made like 85 or 90,000 that year on a draw with the PFL. And like my,
two-round fight.
A 2-round fight. So it was like, when I left the UFC, the PFL doubled my contract on both sides. So it was like, I was getting 25 in the UFC, and then they doubled it at 50 and 50. Plus it's $1 million tournament,
Yep.
So there, it's a no-brainer there. But the only downside is the tournament format, and you fight, you go right into camp to the next one. If you're banged up, you're beat up, tough shit. You got tournament to uphold. So
they're going into pay-per-view, this coming up year too.
Yep.
So, and that's might be tough, but they are hopefully that's successful. So I noticed on your fight resume that you had a canceled fight with Paul Felder.
Yeah.
And it
yeah.
made me think, is there any fights on there that were talked about that wouldn't show up on that list, that maybe there was some names that, is there a fight that maybe you wanted to get that you just missed for one reason or another?
Who was that super tall guy that went 0-3 out at the
So
end?
James
That was
Vick.
Vick.
Yeah,
That was-
yes,
that
you
was-
were gonna. I
he
saw
was
that too.
destroying
I saw that
everybody.
too.
Yep.
That's the fight that I missed
Yeah.
that I wanted to see forever.
There's a couple of them. Felder and like, dude, Felder and I actually we met in Boston because I was supposed to fight him
Such an
in
awesome
Boston
guy.
when McGregor fought Siver, and I was supposed to fight Felder on that show, but then he ended up bumping up the week before to fight on a pay-per-view to fight Castillo,
Yep.
the alpha male guy, and it had an epic spinning back fist knockout.
Yeah,
and
Felder's known for epicness, though.
dude, yeah, and I remember getting that Felder fight, and I was like, I was watching the footage with Jeremy Stevens. I was living in San Diego at the time. I'm like, fuck, dude, these guys gonna fucking hurt me, dude. Like, he's like, but you know, I was still like, any guy you fight on the world level, you're like, I don't want to fucking fight that guy. He's a killer. But then you get to a point where it's like, okay, how do I beat him with my attributes? And, you know, you don't really look at it like, you know, a big scary monster. You look at it like a tactical adversary that you can, you know, just, you know, operate on.
No, us regular guys see it as big, scary monsters.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be honest with you.
I mean, that's every human.
Bad against such
No,
awesome
yeah, I'm going to
That's-
try to drive away.
That's every human.
Or maybe
for
run
sure.
you over. I just got to get home.
Even the toughest guys in the world, like, they don't look forward to fighting. Like, they know what a real fucking fight is. And that's not something you really want to just take on a fucking Tuesday, dude.
Yeah, I've always felt that, though, even just from, like, being out with friends in places. The guys that I know that could, for regular guys that could really fight, were usually the more respectful, kind of
For sure.
nicer guys that really didn't want that to happen unless they're protecting their loved ones or something like that. So, no, so that Felder story is crazy. He's actually, I think he might be my favorite color commentary guy
Paul's
this
awesome.
day.
He's an
He's
awesome
just,
human being.
he's just the best.
He is.
But also, who are a couple of your current favorite fighters to watch? So I'm guessing striking. You know, you enjoy, since you know Sean's kind of,
Yeah.
you know, and you mentioned him a few times, so you probably enjoy a good striking match.
I like good MMA. So I like
That's
to see
fair.
guys get beat the fuck up, whether it's on the feet, on the ground, and then I like submissions too. I'm not necessarily like a joint lock guy, like arm locks, leg locks, but I like to see people get strangled. Because, like, people forget, like, a tap out, that doesn't like, that's murder if you motherfucker don't like it. If you don't let go of that choke, dude, that's death. But, like,
That's
people are
saying
like,
uncle.
oh, I'd rather see a guy get knocked out than choked out. It's like, well, yeah, but if we're not in a sport, we're in a back alley, then you'd probably rather get knocked out than choked out, honestly.
It felt like Gaethje was close to death in that fight against
Oh.
Max when it came to just the striking. But yeah, no, people don't realize that, you know, when I could just not me. You guys could just choke somebody out and kind of go about your day. What are some guys you like to watch?
You know, I work so much, and I tell Johnny, I watch these UFCs now, and I can count them on one hand how many people I didn't even know on the card. All these
So-
new guys I know nothing about. So I follow the local trend, and of course, I mean, this might sound cliche, but Johnny's been my my favorite fighter for the
Yeah,
last,
it makes sense.
10 years and stuff that I actually follow. Another nephew, Alex Coover, that's coming up through the ranks. I love watching him, and I've loved watching him advance. The last gym he was at ruined him, and I got to watch him come back from Vegas as a complete fighter, and then he actually went downhill from the gym he was at. Now he's back with Johnny, and watching him rise, he just won his first world title in Missouri 2 weekends
Wow.
ago, 3 weekends
Yeah.
ago, and to see, just became a dad, he's getting so grounded, and he had his first fight for me for 18, right in Boone, Iowa, and watching him move up, it's just so awesome that I can watch these kids at 18 move up into the huge ranks, now fighting for MCC, now a world title holder in Missouri, and now, hopefully we can get him on a Rizen card coming up next year and getting him a huge fight. We are pro Rizen now. Rizen has treated my nephew so well, and the respect for the fighters, everything over there, it's just, they help you. Johnny went over and he was 1-1 with the fighter. They know they're going to fight each other. Johnny lived with him for 5-6 weeks with his family, ate dinner with him every single night, trained together,
Wow.
gave each other their secrets that they're going to use again in a fight, and he didn't care. They're brothers now.
That's incredible.
They talk every single week. They do everything like that. Johnny wishes him good luck. He fights this weekend
Yeah, he fights this weekend.
back
So-
in Japan.
Yeah, for people watching, let's kind of give them an idea of what Rising is. Obviously, it's an MMA promotion, but if you kind of want to, where it's based out of, kind of a little bit about it.
Yeah, so Rizen is actually
where people could watch it.
Yeah, so if anybody's familiar with the sport of MMA at all, there was a promotion called Pride Fighting
Yes,
Championship
sir.
in Japan. So Rizen is the modern day Pride Fighting Championship.
When you say it like that,
So
actually.
it's I mean it's
Definitely is.
the exact same show. So I won't get into the details like what happened, but you know, Pride went under. Could never be again. Sakakibara sold all the rights to UFC, right? Did his time, did his ban, whatever, came back as Rizen, like landed the Rizen Sun, like the Kamikaze, and same promoter, same show, same rule set, same everything. So, you know, we fight in a ring. Head stomps, soccer kicks are legal. Any angle of elbow, so no noon to 6 bullshit. You know, no grounded opponent. You can get kneed in the head, soccer kicked in the head, stomped on the head anytime. And you know, the rule and the fight is scored completely differently than it would be in the UFC. Like UFC America, they use a 10-8 or a 10-9 must, so they score round to round.
Yes, sir.
In Rizen and Pride, they score the fight as a whole. Okay, so you know, in the UFC, it's like if it was a close round, say, you know, and then you have to give somebody a 10-9, well, then you just give a whole third of the segment to a guy that's like, it wasn't quite that, you know, it's kind of hard to call. But in Japan, they score the fight 60% is scored upon damage inflicted, 30% on submission attempt, and 10% on wrestling. So, you know, if I'm a wrestler and I go take a guy down and I'm in his guard and he's latched onto my arm, he's winning 30-10. He's trying to finish the fight. I'm just trying to subdue him, you know? Another thing, too, is so I saw this fight, this bantamweight fight, is a kickboxer versus a grappler. And for 14 and a half minutes, dude, this kickboxer kicked the shit out of this poor grappler. It wasn't even close. And the last 30 seconds, the grappler took his back, sunk in a rear naked choke. Right at the buzzer, dude fell, and they called it a draw. Because they're like, yeah, he beat your ass for 14 and a half minutes, but he could have killed you. But we don't know because we ran out of time, so it's a draw. You know, so they really look at fighting as fighting, like
Yes,
two
sir.
guys, two spirits on the battlefield. You know, one lives, one dies. And that's why the rule sets are a little bit more efficient as well. You know what I mean? That's why you can stomp and soccer kick. It's like they want to see a clear winner. You know, and it's not like the UFC. You can just be a really phenomenal athlete and go out there and out hustle, out control.
Point fight.
Point fight. You can take them down, control. You get a minute to rest. I'm not saying it's that easy because it's, you know, fighting MMA especially is one of the hardest sports in the world, but it's so much easier if you can go out there and eke out and subdue a guy for 5 minutes. Then you win a round. And then, you know, you do that 3 rounds and, you know, and I think Pride, Rizen has always done a really good job at showcasing the fighting spirit. Like, that's the thing about people who don't really understand fighting or has never done it. It's like there's a whole nother element to the fight other than just, oh, this guy's landing more strikes, this guy's got more submission attempts, you know. It's an actual spirit of the fight, you know, and it's hard to see when a guy just goes out there and he's subduing him and he wins a round. You don't really see that heart, that really digging deep.
And just over in Japan, it's just so much different the way they're raised with the honor, the respect, everything like that. They just give so much back to the sport and so much back to the athletes that here in the United States we don't see. It's kind of, you know, it's us. We think about ourselves. We think about that. Over there, they think about the warrior, what can I do for you to make you better and stuff like that. And it's a whole different system over there in Japan with the fighting, with the promotion, with the athletes, with everything else. So, you know, we probably could make more money here fighting for the PFL for fighting over there, but it's just the total picture of Rizen is just so much better for Johnny's fighting style, for Johnny's legacy, for everything like that. And just like they tell him every time, we don't care if you're 50 years old. If you come over here, you entertain, you show your heart and stuff, you can stay here until you want to retire. We will let you fight here as long as you keep fighting with the ferociousness you fight with every single time.
Love that.
You will have a place in Japan.
And that's what the reason why the fans are so educated, the reason why the fans are so, like, they respect fighters, they revere fighters, is because, you know, martial arts is mandatory, you know, in Japan. When you're a young kid, you have to do, so they understand how fucking hard fighting is, you know. They're not out there, you know, whereas Americans, you know, we watch pro football and, you know, pro wrestling. Like, oh, I just see red and hit him in the head and knock him out. And it's like, no, dude. Like, you have no idea how helpless real fighting is, you know? So that's a big thing, too.
Where can people watch Rizen?
So Rizen, they do their own pay-per-view. So if you just go to Rizen.tv, they have all the links there, and, you know, you buy the pay-per-view for there.
And can we find older Rizen fights on YouTube and stuff probably, or no?
I don't. Yeah. So the Rizen, they do like Rizen Confessions, and they actually started reposting older fights on my or on YouTube. So you can go back and see. I think just about every one of my Rizen fights.
They're harder
on
to
YouTube.
find, but they're getting more into the technology era over there.
The thing about Japan is, like, they know who Conor McGregor is, they know who John Jones is, but they don't fucking care. Like, unless like what's big in Japan is really all everybody cares about, you know. So, you know, that's really the big deal. Like, if you're a big deal over there, then you're a star over there, you know. So.
You know, you walk around in Tokyo malls and you have kids wearing Johnny Hollywood shirts and dyeing their hair blonde the weekends he's fighting.
That's incredible.
He is an absolutely superstar in Japan.
Japan's awesome.
That's incredible. And I don't, this may be wrong, but Rizen isn't one of the promotions that does the New Year's Eve event, is it?
They do.
That is them.
That
Okay,
is
so
and that will probably be Johnny's next fight. Is the New Year's Eve,
that's a
which
big deal.
The biggest show in Japan, and Johnny's already fought on that show, but they want him back this year for that.
MMA fans know that's one of the bigger shows in MMA. To be fair,
for sure.
You know, so okay, it is them. That's
it's not quite as big as the MCC Thanksgiving Throwdown.
Well, yeah. So let's.
It's close, very close.
You're such a professional, man. So let's talk. I was there last year.
Nice.
So much fun.
What do you think?
I always have fun because I don't get out much. Kind of try to put my head down, work.
Sure.
You know, make sure the kid has everything she needs. I'm always available, so I don't get out much. I'll be there this year.
Awesome.
I'm actually. It's too bad Robert couldn't be here.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping to film him leading up to his fight. Kind of.
Him and Tyler. That is a grudge match that we've been trying to put together forever, and another promotion tried stealing it, and I said, yeah, absolutely not.
I love it.
Those are both MCC guys. You know, Robert's through and through MCC and everything like that, and we love both of the guys. And that fight will be on MCC. It will not
so let's
be
talk
on another
about that.
promotion that hasn't earned it.
So Thanksgiving Throwdown.
Yes.
The Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Always the night before Thanksgiving.
Kind of a staple event.
Yes.
How many years have you done that event?
This will be our 5th Thanksgiving Throwdown that Johnny and I have done together.
And tell people about it. Where is it?
Valor Ballroom.
Tickets, kind of maybe a couple of the fights, you know. I can actually tell people what to expect as far as an experience. I always have a lot of fun there. You know, I always feel like I just like being around like-minded people. It's always a great crowd. I haven't had the experience of it's been a lot of fun and riled up, but I haven't dealt with a lot of stuff that comes with potential MMA crowds and promotions.
Drunken debauchery.
It exists. It exists, but I've always had a good experience there, and there's, you know, food and drinks, and it's always been a great time. I had a table one time, and that was the best.
And that's what we do. We pride ourselves on throwing the all-age shows that kids can come out and be safe. You don't have to worry about getting fights in the crowd and stabbed afterwards and stuff like that, because we throw an all-age show. We try to get it done as early as we can, 10 to 10:30, but we start on time. We're the only promotion that starts on time, and we run the shows. We'll have 14 fights for this Thanksgiving Throwdown. It's going to be a huge show. Every year we keep getting bigger and better. And like I tell everybody, you can fight for the other promotions if you want to have 500 or 600 people, or you can come to MCC and fight between 12 and 1,400 people. The promotions, you know, keep your money, keep your ticket sales. Our sponsors pay the same amount of money for the table as you would. We don't charge our sponsors any more money than what they do, and we give them free sponsorship because they're Johnny and I's friends. We're not out here charging $2,500 for someone to have 6 seats and bring you a waitress
and their name on the ring or something.
Yeah, we're not into that. We want to promote good people that we know, with Anglo, with Certified Auto, with Bebops, with, you know, Jersey Mike Subs, everything like that. You know, Prescott and all these guys have been with us since the beginning. But they literally we don't charge them sponsor money. They come because they're our friends, and we blow them up.
Yeah, they come every year. It's like, that's the thing too. Our sponsors, they're not just like people we don't know. It's our friends, and like they look forward to coming to our shows because they know Rick puts on a hell of a card.
And they've probably seen the journey.
Yes.
As well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And we've got these guys, Walters Riffing and Solar and stuff like that, with Jesse, with the owners. They know they're not paying any more money for sponsorships. So literally after the good fights, they come up and hand every one of these fighters $100 bills and say, thank you for being here. Thank you for giving us a show, stuff like that. We have so much more to offer with Johnny Case, with the connections that he has, with the sponsors we have that give all these guys money. After the show, they pay for their gym dues, they buy them gear, they do everything else. No other promotion in the state of Iowa can offer that to
that's
these young
incredible.
athletes.
And that's the thing too, and that's actually why that's a good testament to why I fight in Japan, and like I have no desire to fight anywhere else. Is because like they take care of the fighters. You know, they make sure that we are, you know, we have everything we need. That yeah, and like there's been cases where they've come slide you some bills and stuff like that. And as a fighter, there's nowhere else I'd rather be than like with somebody that I know has my best interest, somebody who's got my back, somebody who I don't have to worry about having ulterior motives, you know, when it comes to me going out there and put it on the fucking line, because that's what the fighters do, you know.
Yes,
like
yes.
And if you're a fighter and you're feeling some type of way of like, oh, this guy brought me in to lose, it's like you're not gonna go out there and do your best. You know what I mean, you're gonna go out, you know. And we want guys to be comfortable. We want guys to feel at home and just go out there and fucking make their dreams come true, you know.
And that's the toughest part, is getting the fighters on board, because they've been screwed so much. You know, I was working with this one fighter, got him to a huge limit, bringing in fights that, you know, he was favored to win, you know, paying these guys to come in and stuff like that. And these other promotions come in and steal them right out from underneath you, and, you know, try to get them beat up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's just,
It's tough.
It's tough. The sport is tough because the fighters, they get screwed over by some of these other promotions. And that's my job, is to get those kind of promotions gone, not support them, get the word out, don't go to these shows, stuff like that. And I have to crack down on that more, because we have a few shady promotions building back up here in Iowa that they hurt the sport and they hurt these athletes, and the athletes don't even realize they're getting hurt. And, you know, until 3 or 4 fights down the road, and then they realize, ah, shit, I'm down the wrong path again. Started so great, and now I went down the wrong path, and now my career is over, or I'm a year behind where I should be because I followed the wrong promotion. And that's just what we want to be known as, is building these young guys from the bottom to the top, and that really is our goal.
That
you know, we
seems-
have to make money, of course, like
Of
everybody
course.
else. But the
I
percentage,
hear that all the time. But
yeah, the percentage these other guys are making on their shows and their sponsorships that the sponsorships are paying for their whole shows, and they're pocketing all this money. We're not into that. We're not interested in that. And,
no, yeah, that's commendable, and it sounds like that's a good message to maybe somebody, maybe a fighter who sees this, or somebody who's trying to find their way, because it is a business as well.
It is.
And you probably need to find some people that you're comfortable around, that you trust, in order to grow.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
The next step of our business will be, when Johnny starts slowing down, is getting more into a manager and a coach position. And we're going to be having some hard conversations with some of these newer pros and high-level amateur athletes that are ready to go to the next level, and say, hey, this is the only way you're going to be able to make it, and you're either going to stay with us or you're going to be away from us. And hopefully, you know, we get these top guys under our wings so Johnny can use his, you know, best fighter in the Midwest title and get them to where they need to be. But if they don't want to come on board, we're going to move to the next guy immediately.
So let me ask you this, because obviously Midwest Cage Championship is the fighting promotion. Do you currently, or do you plan to have a team, you know, like a team that kind of comes from a gym, kind of a team of fighters, or is Midwest Cage Championship also a team of fighters?
So I actually coach. I started coaching Elite Edge in Grimes. So Joe Brammer is a longtime friend of mine. And you know, when I moved back to Iowa, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna start coaching there. But you know, Josh Neer already had his thing going in Ankeny. So you know, and the goal was never to be like a monopoly of just like, this is the only good fighters here. Like, I want everybody, every gym, I want all their boys to succeed. You know, I look at fighters like, kind of like, you know, if I had like a high school kid, right, and he brings his buddy over to my house, it's like, I'm gonna watch your kid, I'm gonna take care of your kid, I'm gonna, you know, guide him like he would be my own, you know, and make sure he's not getting into trouble, make sure he's not doing dumb shit. Like, you know, I'm gonna educate the kid like he's my own kid. But it's just, it's gotten hard because like MMA in Iowa is very old school, where it's like, nah, dude, fuck, we don't need nobody, we'll just do this on our own. Well, it's like that old saying is like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with a team, you know? And I'm talking a team from your training partners, your coach, the promotion, you know, because it's like you could have great training partners, no coaching, shit, right? You could have great coaching, no training partners, shit. You could have good coaches and good training partners, and you have a promotion that wants to fucking rape and pillage you for ticket sales. Well, fuck, it's gonna be pretty tough to make it there too, you know? So you need the layers of it, you know? You need your family, your friends to support you. You need, you know, your team, your coach, you know, your friends that are training rather than out drinking you know? It's like you need that, and you need help getting to the next level. You know, you need a promotion that wants to kind of make all the stars aligned as best they can before you get sent off. You know, make sure you're having
Absolutely.
good fights where you're favored to win, but you're gonna face some fight. You know, but you know, that way when you're getting to the next level, it's not like, oh, dude, you just only fought, you 10-0 and you fought only cans, and now you fought somebody who's decent, they whooped your ass, and it's like, oh man, I don't know if this fighting is for me, you know?
Yeah.
So it takes communication and teamwork from a network of people, from, you know, ground zero to, you know, on to the next level, till the top, man.
Yeah, I tell people a lot when they kind of say they want to do it on their own, whatever it might be. You never hear somebody go accept an award, and I guess I shouldn't say never, but you rarely hear someone go accept an award and say, "I like to thank me, me and only me."
Right.
And in fighting, even the same way, you usually don't see a fighter win a big fight and say, unless you're Conor McGregor, obviously, and we see how that's worked out for his legacy. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So you rarely see a fighter say, "I did this. I got myself here." To me, that's all the data I need to know I can't do it alone.
Right.
Whatever it may be. But in fighting, I would implore young fighters to think about that nobody says I did this when they get to the level.
Well, and that's the illusion too, because when it comes down to it, you are the one getting in that cage alone.
Of course.
You know what I mean? So like, that's the thing too, is like getting these fighters to understand that. It's like, yeah, dude, this is you and your career, and like you're the one that's getting in that fucking cage. But why would you take any unnecessary risks? You know what I mean? Why would you do this guy a favor? Why would you go fight this guy in his hometown fucking when you know you're not going to win a decision? Why do you do dumb things that, you know, it's like, yeah, you could probably win that fight, maybe, but wouldn't you rather fight in your own hometown, like around with your own people, and like, you know, making sure like, hey, we're going to be honest with you, there's going to be a fucking fight, or, you know, train for it. We're not going to just give you a gimme fight, you know? And like that's the biggest thing I want to really tell the up and coming fighters. It's like, man, this is selfish. This is your career, and like you ultimately have the last say. But you got to understand, dude, there are so many pieces that are moving. You know, there's so many hats that need to be worn if you're going to try to take that on yourself. And I would say, I'm not going to say you can't do it, but you got to be a pretty squared away motherfucker if you're able to do such a thing like that.
So it sounds like you almost need a balance between, I am the guy who gets in here, I got to get the job done, but you also got to be coachable, probably able to learn. As a layman, when I watch the fights, my friends will laugh sometimes when you'll see a coach trying to tell a guy in between rounds what he should do. And sometimes I feel like the fighter's like, of course, I want to do that, you know? So I was going to ask you about that kind of jokingly. Has there ever been a time where maybe, or as a coach, how hard is it to tell a guy like, hey, you should do this or look for this, but you're trying to do that or look for that?
Well, it depends. In relation to the fight, in a fight, it's usually pretty easy because you are in a fight, as a fighter, from the fighter aspect, when you're in the fight, it's chaos. And like, yeah, there's moments that kind of stick out where you're like, but like for the most part, if you're in a fucking tough fight, you don't know if you're winning or losing. It's like, dude, he fucking hit me a couple hard times. But it's like, but from the outside, from the corner, you can see that. You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
And so for, you know, as a fighter, like if I'm a cornerman talking to a fighter, you know, and we've worked together, it's almost like a video game. You know what I mean? Like they're in like a fucking state of like flow where they're not really attached to anything. They're just there and present, and like we'll act on the calls that I call out that we repped thousands of times in their training camp. You know what I mean? So if I say code name zombie, boom, that's, you know, like it's usually pretty on par like that. But talking a fighter, telling them what to do, trying to guide them in their personal life, I was like, man, I ain't gonna fucking listen to you. Like, what? Yeah, you know I mean,
because there's so many other people.
And there's a lot of guys impressioning too, but it's like fighters are knuckleheads, dude.
They are.
Right? And it's like, it's hard enough just to deal, like me as a fighter, it's hard enough to just deal with one knucklehead as myself, you know? And that's why I have so much respect for, like, you know, my coach John Crouch and guys who are like, you know, got coaches who, like, when they walk in the room, everybody shuts the fuck up and looks at him. You know what I mean? And, like, not because he's like a tyrant or not because he's a guy like throwing his power around. It's because, like, he's a coach that you want to win for. You know what I mean? He's a coach that you respect what he has to say because, you know, he's put in the work and, you know, and it shows, you know. And that's the hard thing around here.
I actually had a legendary boxing coach, Pepe Pena, you know, from Pena's gym.
yeah.
So I had him in here, and he kind of talked about that because he mentioned a fighter who wasn't very coachable, didn't really want to listen, but had all the talent in the world, and they parted ways. And then when he came back and he was able to he said, I want to listen.
Yep.
And he became champion
He grew up and matured.
on some level. So he talked about that exact thing. Corner work is such a big deal. Every once in a while, I pull up the corner work for Leon's fight against Usman, and I'll just watch the video because it makes me feel better about myself when I get up in the morning.
For sure.
I definitely don't want to get out of here, though, without just spending a few more minutes on the big event. So where is it?
It's a Bel-Air Ballroom. That's the only place MCC will
which
be.
just
from
got
here on
redone.
out. Just got redone.
Actually, it was- worked for the
$14
construction
million,
company that was-
everything that did it.
Working there, yeah.
Doug, the manager there, is second to none. I tell you, working with that guy is just the easiest thing in the world. And we signed an exclusive contract. Nobody else can come into Bel-Air unless
Wow.
I okay it.
Have you done an event there since it's gotten redone?
One.
Yeah, we've had
we
one
just
event
did
there.
one this year.
Because
Yep,
last
we were one of the
year's-
first events there.
Last year's Thanksgiving Throwdown was at Hy-Vee
Hall.
Hall.
Yep,
it
we-
was.
we
You had
partnered
been there a
with
few
a-
times, right?
Yep, that's where MCC built and stuff like that. It's just, it's just they make it tough to get in there.
Since COVID.
Yeah.
Since COVID, I should add.
They make it tough to get
they've
in
made
there.
it tough to get in there.
But we partnered with Matt Ryder with AFC in there, and Matt just got the company back for AFC. He had a shithole partner that was trying to ruin his business and stuff, and not naming names, but Matt just got everything back, and Matt will be coming back next year and throwing a few shows for AFC. Johnny and I work with Matt. We respect Matt a lot, so we're excited to have AFC back, and MCC and AFC will be taking over Des Moines next year, and we will be blowing everybody out of the doors and
Exciting.
keeping all the fighters busy. So, but Bel-Air Ballroom.
What time?
We always open the doors since it's on a Wednesday night. We always go a little bit later. We go 6:30 doors, 7:30 show, and our goal is going to be done by 10:30 or 11 because it's an all-age show. Get everybody home for the holidays and stuff like that. Tickets will go on sale usually a month in advance. You'll get them from all the tickets. Right now, I've got 14 fights. I've got 12 fights signed right now, and I'm looking to pair one pro athlete and one amateur athlete.
What weight? What weight?
We need a 125-pound pro for a debut local fighter, and we need an amateur fighter between 160 and 165 to fight a 2-1 local fighter. Two of my favorite fighters, by the way, favorite amateur and favorite pro debut fighters. And then we'll have 14 fights, and I'll cap it at 14. And we are going to bring a blowout show. We have another show right before that his goal was to get every local fighter out to try to hurt Thanksgiving Throwdown. He'll have 600 people, and we'll have 1,200 people still, just like always. Because if it ain't MCC, it ain't real, brother.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Are there different ticket levels?
Yep. General admission started at $25. We're still the only promotion that has never changed our prices since the first day
That's
we
actually
started.
valued by me as
Yep.
Paycheck
Everyone
to
else
paycheck,
is,
baby.
Yep. Everybody else is $35 now for General admission.
Yes, sir.
Johnny and I said nope. We want all the working people there. We kept it at $25. Our VIP seats are $35. What you
Yep,
pay?
that's what
What you pay for general admission every place else. Then we got second row tables for $45 a piece, and then the front row tables VIPs are $50 a ticket. Still the same price. It always have been. We'll never raise prices. We'll keep it the same. Johnny and I should be getting paid a lot more for our time and stuff like that, and chasing sponsors and
I
stuff.
know how valuable
but
your time is.
we really do not. We just want to throw a fan-friendly, safe show that you can come in and say, I have no idea who's going to win these fights. And a lot of those other promotions, Johnny and I can go through their 10 or 12 fight card, and 9 to 10 fights we can pick who's going to win before we walk in through the door, and 90% of the time we're correct unless a big punch is landed. So,
Are you coaching anybody who's fighting?
No, not for this show.
well, yeah, you're fighting the Broderick boy.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
training him.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I actually
Just
got
started
a new
coming to the
student
gym.
who started training with me. Yeah, so he's been training with me a couple weeks now. amateur fighter. But
Yep.
yeah, he's got a lot of potential. He's a young prospect and trained his whole life, done jiu-jitsu when he was a kid, and he's got a lot of potential for sure. So yeah, so I'll have one. My nephew, or my cousin, I guess nephew, my cousin Alex Coover. Rick mentioned him before. We just went down to Missouri, and he beat a tough up-and-coming undefeated prospect, and knocked him out in his own backyard. So
First round.
So that
wrecked him.
felt so good to, finally have one of our guys go out there and show out the way that I know that he's capable of doing. So, and honestly, like it's kind of a weird thing being a coach to some fighters and being the promoter, having guys fight on the promotion side. So, last time I had Alex he fought for us in, at the renewed, first show back at the Valère. And I was like, oh man, Rick, I know there's a lot to, going on during the show, but, I'd really like to just be in the locker room and, make sure he's ready to go. And Rick's like, yeah, no problem. I got this, So it's been super awesome to be able to, be part of the promotion and still be able to be there for my guys too, and because that's at the end of the day, that's all I care about. It's like, I'm not focused on money. I'm focused on like these guys' careers. I'm focused on giving these guys the best opportunity that I can, so they can go out there and make their dreams come true. Like I was. I see myself in them. And if you do that and you take care of that, the money will come. But if you're just focused on ticket sales and pimping out fighters, well,
A couple years down the road, you're going to be broke again.
You're gonna be broke, and all the talent's gonna be spoiled. So,
Well, the longevity definitely speaks for itself. I would like to say, I'm sure there's some traits that come with being a fighter or being around fighters training that you apply to just kind of everyday life, whether it's your 9-to-5 job, parenting, being a friend, brother, all these things. What are a few things that you might tell somebody who's trying to find their way? And I say that not even necessarily in fighting, but some things that maybe come from your training or from your daily, regiment that, some people can take something from.
For me, the biggest one is humility.
Yes, sir.
Being able to call out your own bullshit, most importantly. Not buying into your own hype, not playing
buying
the
into
victim,
your own hype
like that, or being like, well, fucking, I'm perfect and everybody else is being assholes. It's like, like being humility and able to check yourself and to be real with yourself and to ground yourself is number one, I think. And also discipline. Like if you want something, it's gonna be hard work, and if you're willing to put in that hard work, you can achieve it. And that takes discipline.
and you're proof.
Thanks.
Living proof.
Thanks.
And discipline and work ethic, those are the two main things for me, because I want these athletes to succeed in the sport, but I want these athletes to succeed in life. I have built so many kids from Johnny on up that were going down the wrong path that are now successful human beings.
Ugh.
Maybe not in this sport. Maybe they, went 0-2 in the sport and stuff like that.
That's a big deal.
But now they are so positive with being fathers, being business owners, being just quality employees that show up to work every single day with the work ethic that I helped instill in them. That's where success comes from, not from anything else.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, big event coming up. I don't know if we talked about it. We talked about the New Year's Eve event. Do you have a fight lined up, or do you have something coming up that you could let us know about? Or
Yeah, so my next fight is actually going to be, it's going to be the guy. So he just fought for the number one contender fight and ended up losing. And then that title fight is going to be this weekend, actually. Luis Gustavo versus Roberto Satoshi Souza, the bro. And then I'm fighting the Japanese fighter who lost that number one contender fight. So I'll, what's it, like a third fight, third in the rankings.
Yep.
Then I was originally supposed to fight him in November, but Rizen, they had a couple guys were champions that weren't, that they weren't necessarily thinking or banking on. So that November card was filled up with the other guys. So basically they said, New Year's Eve is going to be the time. Just be ready to go.
so that is your next fight.
Yeah. So usually if they say something, then they mean it. Like they don't just
Gotcha.
throw shit around and be like, oh, So yeah. So unofficially, yes, New Year's Eve will be my officially New
Yes.
Year's
And
Eve.
if that gets set, that'll be the new number one contender, because the fight will be set here Johnny and him
Yep.
will fight on
And
New Year's,
they'll
and then
need
the
some time to
winners,
heal
winners will
and-
fight the title holder again.
So when would you? So since we have a tentative date, when would a camp for something like that start?
So I'm like, well, that's like 13 and a half weeks away. I literally just checked it. So for, you know, 5 round, honestly, like I prefer 6 weeks. Some people like 6 or like 8 week camps, but I find by the time I get like 2 weeks from that camp to from the fight, I'm so burnt the fuck out. And like, the last thing I want to do is train. You know what I mean? I feel like if I go into a fight 6 week camp, and I'm already in decent shape, you know, I'm lifting and like I feel like that's perfect because then it's like the timing's perfect. I, you know, train hard and then I back it off the last 2 weeks and I'm ready. I'm like a bear that's been poked in the cage for fucking a decade and you just pull the cage and let me loose, you know. So I like 6 weeks prior. Title fights, you actually need the 8 week camp because they're a little bit longer fight, you know.
Yes, sir.
So just the preparation's a little bit longer for those, but yeah, 6 weeks. That's where I like to be.
Are the Rizen round structures the same as what we're used to?
So
3 5-minute, 5 minutes.
It is. So yeah, it is. So for title fights is 1 10-minute round and a fight. It's still a 15-minute fight, but they have a 10-minute first round because the goal is to get you tired. You know, they want to see like who's the better athlete. They want to see, okay, you're both fucking tired. Now the fight starts. Now we're gonna see who's the better fighter. You know what I mean? And so yeah, but it's still 15-minute fights, which I really prefer that anyway. You know, the 25-minute fights, that's a half hour of fighting. You know, that's a long time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I prefer the 10-minute first round, 5-minute, you know, third round. But again, the fight is scored as a whole in Rizen versus the round to round. So
Gotcha.
It's just a time loaded, and then you get a little rest, and then back at it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, 2025 is going to be the year, brother. Since Johnny and I started when we got MCC back fired up, we've only done 2 shows a year because he's so busy fighting,
Yes,
and
sir.
I'm so busy in my other promotion and running an entire city that we can only do 2. Next year, we've already got 3 dates booked. We're going to 3 dates. So 2025, we're going to be bringing Des Moines the quality of shows they have. Johnny will be a Rizen World Champion in 2025 also, and then bringing that Rizen title home. And we're just going to get bigger and better for the next 10 years. I'm going to turn everything over to Johnny then, and Johnny is going to be retired by then, and Johnny will build MCC bigger than it's ever been.
That's incredibly, incredibly exciting. I really appreciate you guys for taking the time. I know how busy you are, and almost a bucket list thing for me. So very, very exciting. I said it, kind of threw it out there earlier, but I would love to, maybe talk more or
Definitely.
promote any events. I would love to, interview fighters.
Yeah, we'd love to come
have
back,
some
bring
nice wireless
Alex.
mics and stuff.
Yeah,
and,
bring Alex back, bring some of the female fighters back. We got 2 female fighters on the 2 female fights on the Thanksgiving Throwdown show,
Wow.
and all 4 of them are such stud athletes that I tell you, when we release this card, there's going to be excitement throughout the entire Midwest for what we're bringing. 7 different states, from
Wow.
all the way across everything, training at UFC gyms to, all the locals, of course. We try to support the locals. We try to build the locals, and we got so many great gym here. All the coaches, we absolutely love the coaches here in town and stuff like that. We just got to build the athletes better, and 2025 is going to be our year.
And I just want to make sure people know, if you're not a fan of or not aware of MMA, you can come. It is an amazing time. It's so much fun. There's a lot of great people there, like you said.
Yes.
The fighters are really putting it all on the line to kind of change their lives, change their
Yes.
families' lives.
And give us a chance. If you go to one of these other shows
Please.
for the first
Yes.
time and stuff and say, holy cow, I'm never going back to a show again. It's so unorganized. It's not safe. It's stuff like that. Please, I've been hearing that so much lately going to these new shows. Please come to the Val Air Ballroom on Thanksgiving Throwdown. Please come to the Val Air on one of our shows, and you will see the difference between a professionally ran promotion by the senior promoter in the state of Iowa and the guys that are just doing it for money. Please give us a chance and don't think we're like everybody else.
And just on our way out, can you just remind people who you are? Kind of, we know it's Midwest Cage Championship, but just can fighters reach out to you if they're looking to fight?
Of
if
course.
they're looking to build a career, if they're looking to.
I'm old, so I run everything off Facebook still. I don't have Instagram. I don't have TikTok. I don't have any of that stuff. Rick Tasler, I do have we have a page, but I run everything off my personal page. Everything, send me a messenger message on Facebook, anything like that. That's where I run my entire business is off Facebook. So hit me up, Rick Tasler, 1S. I'm a police officer during the day, so that's my profile picture. Is that is my career? This is my hobby. I separate the two 100%. But hit me up on Facebook. Hit Johnny Case up. Johnny Case is the face.
A legend.
Yes, the legend. He is the face, the person behind MCC.
A motherfucking legend. I don't even
Yes.
try to cuss on here that much.
We do the business together, but he is the face that we are trying to build to show everybody that they can be just like him. And that's
Love that.
That's still our goal, and that'll be our goal until the day we sell the company when Johnny decides to in 20 years.
And where can people get tickets?
Tickets are right through the fighters. We do paper tickets only. We don't
Got
do
it.
online sales. We don't do anything. You can get them from any athlete on the card. You can get them from Johnny and I, or you can get them for the exact same price at the door the day of the show. But if you want a VIP table
tickets or
anything like that, they sell out the first 2 days. We haven't had an MCC show that we've had tables last more than 48 hours.
Oh, we got to
And
try to get one. We
they
gotta
will
try to
sell
get
out
one.
immediately. So if you want one, call and reserve one, brother. And we'd love to have you. And
So
we
exciting.
look forward to coming back a couple times for sure. We'll bring athletes with us next time before Thanksgiving Throwdown. We'd love to fill some spots for you and bring the athletes in.
I'll
and
make
introduce
sure to
you.
have the lights on.
We will be here, and as
Thank
you
you.
can see,
Thank
my
you,
dog.
Rick.
Thanks for letting me bring my canine in. Shorty
Oh, absolutely.
He is a staple of MCC. He's at every single MCC show, sleeping underneath the cage. Everybody comes up to see him. He is
Love it.
staple in the community.
And I'm not going to force you to have to tell anybody because you're a legend. You're a legend. MMA career that's legendary in the state of Iowa. Everybody knows who you are. You talk about wanting to help others and wanting to show people a better way. There's a lot of kids out there that might not know that fighting or just the discipline that comes with training can really change their life.
Yeah.
And you are a legend.
Elite Edge in
Grimes.
Grimes,
Elite
Iowa.
Edge and Grimes.
Johnny is the head coach there. Bring your kids.
Show
bring
up
your
to work,
adults.
though. Bring your lunchbox.
Females, new, old, male, it doesn't matter. Kids, all ages, every limit, anything. Johnny Case will make you better. If you want to be a cardio kickboxer, he'll get 50 pounds off you. If you want to be a pro MMA fighter, amateur MMA fighter, self-defense in high school, get at Johnny Case, at Elite Edge, in Grimes. He will do anything you need him to do.
And let's be clear, he's still a current title contender, one of the best in the world, may win the belt, and he was motherfucking here. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, bro.